Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. He's the man who dons many hats. He's a renowned senior advocate in the Supreme Court, fantastic litigator, very active parliamentarian now in the Rajya Sabha. He's managed to step outside the shadows of his illustrious father, Ram Jethmalani, and build himself a fantastic legal and political career. And of course, privileged to say he's a personal friend of mine. Gives me immense pleasure to welcome Mahesh Jethmalani on The Nation Wants to Know. Mahesh, thank you for making time. You've been a very busy person making the headlines. You've been very pugilistic. You've been attacking the BBC. You've been attacking Jairam, Ramesh. You've been looking at the China angle on various things. And I thought it would be very interesting to discuss with you the China angle in so many things. First of all, Tony, just to begin by starting by asking you, are we making too much of the China angle in everything? Some people think that the China angle is being used as an excuse to go away from the core issues which must be debated.
Well, surely this is too much of a coincidence, Arnab, that you have the Bharat Jodo Yatra, which is now, spearheaded by, somebody whom I have called a Chinese pet, right? And, he now actually is the main think tank of in fact, he is the think tank of the Congress party, right? So a very, very pro-Chinese politician has now taken charge, right? Every time you make an allegation about the close connections of the Congress party with the CCCP, this is denied. Then we point out that you are really saying things, particularly on the border skirmishes, which would certainly resonate with China, and that you almost sound like its mouthpieces. You undermine our Jawans, right, and their efforts in Galwan, Tawang, and Doklam. And last but not least, we repeatedly ask you that, look, in the light of all our allegations, right, it certainly behoves you to come clean on that very, very, controversial document, that MOU of 2008, right? If there is surely nothing, first of all, you're making all these pro-China noises. Then why are we not having any glimpse of that, that much spoken about document? Why are you maintaining such a silence on it? This is surely not a private affair between you and the CCCP. China is an enemy country, right? And you are the leading opposition party. It behoves you to come clean with the nation. As regards the other Chinese connection, I think there's overwhelming evidence about BBC's, financial interlocking and its constant anti-Indian propaganda. There's no other explanation why they repeatedly peddle falsehood about India, publish a truncated map of India without the Jammu and Kashmir, right? Rake up in 2023 an issue of 2002, right, i.e. the Gujarat riots, try and implicate a very powerful leader who stood up to them, namely Narendra Modi, right? And apologize in 2021 and continue to remain unrepentant after you've been given a second chance for publishing that truncated map. So I don't think that, there's any bogey being raised about China, right? And the fact of the matter is that all these issues, we have a clear statement of the Indian government. Let's take the Congress stand on the border issue. We have a clear stand of the Indian government, and if you don't believe the Indian government, you should certainly believe the Indian Army, which has repeatedly said there has been no territory lost in any of the areas where a skirmish has taken place. Our territorial integrity is safe, and our borders are being well protected, right? As far as the BBC documentary is concerned, we've had, Prime Minister Modi has been hauled over the coals of fire on the entire issue. He's gone to the SIT for many, many hours and spanning 2 or 3 days for interrogation. The matter has been examined threadbare both by an SIT appointed by the Supreme Court, monitored by the Supreme Court, and by a full-fledged trial on the issue, right? We finally have a decision of the Supreme Court which says that somebody like Teesta Setalvad kept the pot boiling and shot over the shoulders of Mrs. Jaffrey, Ehsan Jaffrey, and tried to implicate the Prime Minister for having, masterminded the riots. And last but not least, all the evidence which the Congress relied upon, right, had been discredited. The Sanjeev Bhatts are in jail. There's a Shri Kumar who falsely tried to implicate Nambi Narayan, right? Yeah, he's another completely tainted witness. And all their testimonies are proved to be false. There have also been commissions of inquiry. So why should we not suspect there's a strong Chinese hand in all this?
Okay, so you've actually given a very wide and sweeping introduction. I want to go on each issue one by one. First, on the BBC China Congress connection. And I'll push you a little bit on this. And
Yes.
let me play the cynic. See, Mr. Jethmalani, you have said that the BBC is paid by China. Now, question is, you've also said
Yes.
that there are several Chinese companies transacting with the BBC. Now,
Yes.
does this mean the BBC is bought over? See, there is a fact and there is an inference. The fact is the BBC has commercial transactions with Huawei,
Yes.
several Chinese companies, and not on one occasion, on multiple occasions. They have done it. They've got a company called Storyworks, does paid content for Chinese companies, etc. But then various channels also do it. And the question will be that if they've taken the money, maybe they've taken it for a silo. They've taken it to produce something else. That it won't affect their coverage of Narendra Modi, or they won't affect their coverage of the government of India or any issues that are political in India. That will be their standard defense. You have a response to that?
Of course, I have a response to that. I have a response to that, and the best response has come from within the, the British establishment itself. The UK government has frowned upon their taking funds from entities, Chinese-owned state companies, Arnab, which are well known for internal surveillance where they operate, right? For instance, Huawei has been banned in a number of countries, right? So, but surely when you're dealing with the Chinese state, this is a clandestine surveillance operation now banned in three countries. They're banned in India from the 5G trials and auctions. They've been banned in Australia, New Zealand, UK, and the USA of all, right? Now, if these simultaneously at the same time, right? There are at least 18 companies from whom you've been taking money over these years, and it spans to about it spans to the time since when they have been anti-India on issues like the Indian Army, Jammu and Kashmir, and so on and so forth, right? So it dates back to those periods. Now, simultaneously at the same time, every day we are finding new aspects of your financial interlocking. We now have found that at least 150 million pounds of 47,000 employees of you have been invested in many Chinese state-owned companies, right? Now China, there is no arm's length between China and its corporate entities, right? The corporate entities are in fact wings of the PLA and the CCCP. They are meant to further their prospects, including prospects in enemy countries. We are one of the biggest dangers to China today. So why this false propaganda, right? And as I said, the best evidence comes out from within the UK establishment itself. They've been severely criticized for all these financial shenanigans which they involve in, and no less a person than a member of parliament, a senior member of parliament, right, who has been virulent on China's atrocities on the Uyghurs, right? He himself has said that please do not tell us that you are not sold out to China on account of all this financial interlocking, taking money and putting your pension funds, right? So you're completely vulnerable to the Chinese state-owned companies. Because, as he very simply and pithily put, Arnab, right? Have my bread, sing my song.
His bread I eat,
What
his song I sing.
And remember, sometime back before, his bread I eat, his song I sing. Those are his exact words, yes. And tell me something, there was a time when the BBC had been reduced to impecuniosity. They were on the verge of beggary. And obviously they've gone with the begging bowl, found a very willing China who's willing to use their brand. And this brand is now peddling false narratives against the enemy countries in
But
those countries.
you think the BBC
China is now
will act
falsehoods
against
in our country?
You think the BBC will go to the extent of acting against the sovereign interests of the United Kingdom, because the UK has got so much at stake in its relationship with India? I mean, the UK desperately needs to sign the FTA with India. It's a big shot in the arm at a time when they're economically isolated and having such economic trouble. So why would, I mean, just the country, why would the UK government allow the BBC to go this far and be a Chinese agent, which goes against the sovereign interest, the economic interests of the UK? Because you're irritating India and you can't afford to do that.
All right, there are two answers to that. No, look, we have excellent relations with the UK government, right? The UK government, in fact, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has completely dismissed this BBC documentary, right? They probably know that it's a piece of propaganda themselves, but they're not saying it. They're being mealy-mouthed about it. But the second aspect is the UK government has only recently said, I think a couple of days ago, that look, the BBC is independent, right? Now, a lot of people here a lot of pro-China elements have picked up that statement by saying, look, the BBC, the UK government said the BBC is independent. It doesn't say that their output is independent, that their propaganda is independent, that what they put out, in countries like India is independent. What they're saying is, as we are arm's length from the BBC, their views are not our views. So that's the way the UK government operates. You can say anything you want, right? But we can't control. We don't control the BBC. Unlike Chinese media, is not an instrument of the state.
So to what extent, I mean, you see your clear conspiracy. Let's take the assumption there is a BBC-China conspiracy. In that case, what is the intention? Is it to needle Narendra Modi? Is it to upset the Narendra Modi, campaign for 2024 re-election? Is it to upset India economically? Is it just an overall defamation campaign? Is it information war at a more planned level? What is it?
I don't think, Arnab, that this is a single point agenda. I think a lot of the factors all play, which you just mentioned. All of those factors have come into play, and they are all considerations for this virulent attack. Let's make no mistake about it. We are the fastest growing economy. We are the one country which can overtake China. We have a very, very powerful army, right? We have a very good weapons system. Our army is probably the best army in high ranges, in mountains, where most of this conventional warfare will take place. So we are both a threat as an economy, a threat as a military power. When foreign, and it's already happening, right? There is going to be, India is going to be a hub of those companies which are going to leave China. Right? We are improving the ease of business. Most of all, we are a democratic country. We have a rule of law here. China doesn't have a much more attractive destination for that fact alone. And for the first time, Prime Minister Modi is standing up to them. China has finally found a leader who has given them a bloody nose in Doklam and in Galwan. For the first time, it's happening. And we are matching them for build-up of infrastructure, Everything we are doing. We have fortified the northeast, Arunachal Pradesh, which is part of the northeast, of course, and all those border areas which are sensitive. So, I mean, they see that, we are going to be a very dangerous military foe. No longer is there going to be salami slicing without a very high cost to pay.
So this is, viewers, if you're watching this tonight, I have a question for you, and there's an interactive poll. Do you think, see, Mahesh Jethmalani puts things across remarkably well. I want to make this interactive. Do you believe Mahesh Jethmalani, or do you disagree with him, viewers? Do you believe he's putting out a conspiracy theory, or he's putting out the truth? One thing is clear to me, you can't just disregard what he's saying. Because I believe that everything cannot be looked at in isolation. We need to connect the dots. Now, if you look at last week's events, Mr. Jethmalani, this Adani story has been right up there center stage, and I was talking about it yesterday on my program, and I said it is remarkable. I mean, my position has been clear, Mr. Jethmalani. Adani is not India, India is not Adani. So I disagree with Mr. Adani waving the national flag to defend whatever he's done in a corporate way. You're a very eminent lawyer. I think every corporate should be responsible, civil or criminal, for what they do. However, when I see the kind of work that Mr. Adani has been doing in projects which have a great geostrategic significance, in Israel, Haifa port, Azerbaijan, taking gas from Azerbaijan to southern Europe, Sri Lanka, Kazakhstan, and in Sri Lanka, where it is backed by India's, standing guarantor for their debt, which they want to raise in order to get out of the economic crisis. In each of the cases, the work of Adani is a direct threat to China's geostrategic interests. They would have wanted both the ports in Israel, now they have only one. And so I was wondering whether you look at it as well, because this Adani Hindenburg saga has taken the country by storm. And as a lawyer who has a firm understanding of corporate affairs, security policy, what do you make of it all?
Well, there is no doubt that there's a triple attack. There's the BBC documentary. There's a very pro-China in tenor, Bharat Jodo Yatra of the Congress Party. The main issue is the border skirmish, and the suggestion is we've lost, we are losing ground on those border skirmishes. That is, one of the recurring themes of Congress policy, and highlighted now in the Bharat Jodo Yatra, right? So, look at the timing of everything that's happening. There, it was Republic Day. This is 2023 when there are 9 state elections. 2024 is going to be the national elections, right? There was the eve of the budget, right? So that any good budget would be sort of overshadowed by these events. And of course, India is now taking over presidentship of the G20. So this is the most crucial year for India. On the other hand, China is obviously going to feel threatened and overshadowed by our meteoric rise right now, particularly at this time. So one does suspect then, right, what you said, this could be the third element that where Chinese have meddled, right? Except that Hindenburg, sorry, I use the word Hindenburg, maybe that's a Freudian slip, but Hindenburg is known to be a bear operator. It's known to be a bear operator, and it picks these targets, right? I would like to believe, right, that there is a Chinese connection with Hindenburg. A lot of people are already speculating that effect, given the Chinese connections in other areas, right? And China is very active. As you know, today there's a spy balloon flying over the United States. It is extremely aggressive in the South China Sea, in Taiwan, everywhere else. It has taken a very aggressive stand, a very adventurous stand. And the spy balloon is which has been floating across Montana, where American nuclear silos have their location. Is an extremely worrying factor. So yes, one does tend to believe that this was an economic hatchet job on India. But I have to say, at the end of all that, notwithstanding my instincts and my proclivities and a little bit of guesswork from the other concatenation of circumstances, right? That there could be a Chinese hand, but at the moment, I have to confess, I haven't found any.
Well, you don't have to bring clinical proof. We just have to get people thinking about the possibilities out here. You call Jairam Ramesh a Chinese pair. What if Jairam Ramesh says, I'm pro-China and that is just my intellectual view? Or I've just been pro-China as an analyst, but that doesn't mean I'm on the payrolls of China, and that's Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani seems to be suggesting. Maybe this is his view, that China and India need to be closer together. Maybe that's just his freedom of expression, as they say.
Yes. Yeah, but I've given a history of Jairam Ramesh's pro-Chinese stance, the extent to which he's gone, right, to promote Chinese interests. You've seen now the complete sinister nature of Huawei in many countries. When he was environment minister, right, he was repeatedly trying to promote their interests and expand and get the government to expand their activities. Now, please tell me, right, when you have home security, when you have home ministry objections to Huawei expanding their activities in India, right, What on earth? Please ask this question, right? Why did Jairam, I think Jairam Ramesh, the onus is not on me. The onus is on Jairam Ramesh. Why were you promoting their interests and asking for expansion of their activities in this country over the Home Ministry under your UPA government? And is it not a fact that it's so irritated then UPA Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, that he called you in, admonished you, and you then meekly gave up advocating those interests, right? Why would Jairam Ramesh do this, right? I've been very careful in my choice of words, though, you know, there is a lot more to be said on Jairam Ramesh. But, let the coming days, you know, pass and we'll see. But
why are you putting out some more?
I called him a Chinese mouthpiece. Chinese mouthpiece. I'm not saying anything right now, no? I'm calling him a Chinese mouthpiece, and I've called him a Chinese pet. Right? That China loves him and still continues to love him, and he still continues to love China, cannot be denied.
What proof do you have that China loves him?
So Jairam Ramesh may say all that, and to Jairam Ramesh I say that you are now, right? You are now the leader, right? De facto leader. You control the mind of Rahul Gandhi. You are the strategist of the party. Bharat Jodo Yatra is your baby, right? You keep speaking on it, right? You attack the Prime Minister on Adani, and you're entitled to all this, right? But on the one hand, when you have these Chinese critics, then when you have these Chinese connections, then on the other hand, it behoves you as an honest politician and a politician who's accountable to the people of this country to disclose that MOU of 2008 and say something about it.
No, I mean, you know...
Until that MOU is going to haunt you, and there are other aspects, Mr. Ramesh, that are going to haunt you.
You know what, he says that I was earlier for Chinese companies, now I am not. He says earlier I was a user of Huawei. Huawei had a tie-up with Tata Telecom. That point of time I was advocating for it. Today my approach to China has changed. He says don't look at what my pro-China position was in the past. He says the matter of the past.
Today he's not said that. Please let him say that. I want him to say that it's a matter of the past.
He has said it in September 22. He has said that in September 22. He said in today's environment, my approach to China has changed.
He may, yeah, all right. So what is his approach to China different? Does he think that, has he said that Huawei, my advocating the cause of Huawei was wrong? And I go a stage further. Will you please tell us, right? Even at that stage in 2009, there was a situation where China, an enemy country, right, was interested in taking charge of your dams in the entire Northeast. You promoted that idea. You said we need Chinese technology. It was still an enemy country. It had Askai Chin in its possession, which our parliament in 1962, right, said that we will get back that territory one day. There's a solemn resolution of parliament. He did that.
Yes.
So, as far as Jairam Ramesh's possible defense, right, that he has changed his view, let him come out and say that I have changed my view, and then we'll tackle him.
But Mr. Jethmalani, I don't think your party is going all out. There are Chinese donations through the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation. All the BJP does is use these to hit the Congress a little bit. They don't really go all the way. There's an MOU signed in 2008. You keep talking about it. You're raising questions. But why don't you demand that the details of the MOU are declassified? And why is that not made an issue in the floor of Parliament? Because if there is anything treasonous in that MOU, we need to know. We need to know. It can't be an individual raising these issues. There has to be an institutional response to these situations. Can the BJP, for example, go and have a private tie-up with the Chinese tomorrow? Can Mr. JP Nadda go to Beijing, sign an agreement privately and come back and never declare what it is all about? You're not taking it all the way. The sense one gets is even on issues such as corruption or the Chinese link, the BJP doesn't really go all the way. It sort of uses these issues to just prick the opposition a little bit and then let's go. Am I correct in that observation, Mr. Jethmalani?
Well, it certainly seems that way, but the BJP government may have other considerations which are matters which may not be mentionable in the public realm. They may have other considerations at the moment. They may be deliberately holding back. They may be waiting for an opportune moment. I don't know. I'm only an MP who's red flagging issues, right? Which the people should know, which is my right as an MP. To let the people know what I know and to share it with them and perhaps agree with my inferences from those facts.
I take that. I mean, in my concluding part, my question to you is, sir, you've been voraciously standing up on this whole China issue. You've been voraciously fighting against fake news, calling out the terror apologists, exposing the pro-China lobby, etc. In the present situation, do you expect the Chinese to continue? Will they continue to do this, or will they directly take on India? Are you concerned about the situation on the border? Let me put it specifically as well, because if China has to really sort of ring fence India or try to ring fence India, then one can't rule that out, can one?
Well, of course, I'm concerned about, nobody wants a war. Nobody wants a war, no matter whom, there are only losers in war. I mean, both sides will lose. So, nobody wants a border war with China, right? But everything China is doing suggests either they just want to keep us under extreme pressure, right? And make us, spend a lot of money on our defense budgets. Or at some stage, they're planning a skirmish with us on the border, right? 2023, 2024, if they have that in mind, is an extremely opportune moment to do so, right? Because they'll embroil Prime Minister Modi at a time when he'll be leading the country, the BJP, to the elections, right? And leading the country on G20. It's an extremely opportune moment for them to do so. So we have to be particularly wary now. Now, the reason why I keep, I've been in Delhi now for 8 years continuously. And I am very, very cognizant of the fact that Delhi in particular, more than any other city, is awash with Chinese infiltration. Awash, right? Now, given that fact...
Awash with Chinese infiltration? Where, at what levels?
At least sound out... Yes.
Are you saying that Chinese agents everywhere in Delhi?
And I don't want to say more of this. Don't... I could be paranoid, but I do. I personally been accosted by one or two, right? And I have put it to those people to whom I'm obliged to put it before. But let me just tell you this, Arnab. The fact of the matter is that everything ultimately boils down to the silence of the party, right? I come to one crucial factor, right? And that I don't understand why the government will not obtain, right? It's a security issue. Right? How much are you entangled with the CCCP? That 2008 MOU, right? Which even Jairam Ramesh has kept his mouth completely shut about. And if you say he is now claiming, right, that he's had a change of heart, right? Which I have strong reasons not to believe, right? But even let's assume the truth of the assumption you made on his behalf. Has he uttered a word about the memo of 2008?
No, they don't talk about it. They just...
And don't you think that's an extremely...
But you got to make it a political issue. I mean,
so
you
why
should
not?
go all out
Why
against
not? If it's an innocuous document, right? Say, this Mahesh Jethmalani is completely of ultra suspicious mind, He's a conspiracy theorist. Let's destroy him by putting this 2008 document out.
No, I don't think you're a conspiracy theorist.
Why not?
I think you're connecting the dots.
Coming back to your question anyway. Arnab, coming back to your question, right, about the threat of China. Of course, there's a very real threat, and they're spreading their tentacles everywhere. They've humbled countries economically through the Belt and Road Initiative. We all know that, right? Countries are in crisis because of them. These guys are ruthless. The CCP is ruthless. And that is one of the reasons of being an autocratic country. That is one of the features of an autocratic country, right? You can ignore your own citizenry. You can massacre them. You can lock them up. You can give them poor health treatment. You can give them inferior vaccines, right? And still, right, have a huge defense budget. And that is because of the cliche that China is today an army with a country and not a country with an army, a lot like Pakistan. In their thrust and the image which they've conjured up for themselves and the system of governance they are very alike. Which is why there's so much symmetry, apart from the both being virulently anti-India.
Well, I think your statement that Delhi is awash with Chinese agents will go far. I find this very interesting. Mahesh Jethmalani, whether it's the BBC, whether it's Jairam Ramesh, whether it's the Congress connection, or simply the China hand in trying to build a narrative against India globally, I think we need to watch out. It's absolute pleasure talking to you, Mahesh Jethmalani. The viewers will decide whether your views are those of a conspiracy theorist, which I don't think they are, or whether you're logically connecting a few dots, which we need to think about. Thank you very much, Mahesh. Thank you.